Okay, getting started. Okay, so welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Uh, yes. So I thought with everything going on in the world, it's a good time to maybe talk about faith and trust, like belief in Hashem or trust, like where to go with all of this. And there's so much on the topic. So we'll kind of do a little intro today, and we could just talk about stuff that we want. And then I guess in the future classes, we'll may um we may go into specific books and like see what certain rabbis have to say over the years of more detailed, to really help get your faith and your trust like cemented well. Okay, so to start that, I want to just share a little famous story. The Baal Shem Tov once went with his students on a little travel, like they always did. They came to an inn, and they got to the inn, and they all sat down to eat, and it was great food. Oh, here comes Dina. Great. And hi Dina. And
Hi.
okay, thanks for joining. Okay. And they all sit down to eat, and they're about to start eating, and all of a sudden there's a big rap on the door. It didn't sound like a friendly rap. And the innkeeper just didn't even bother. He just ignored the knock and just kept on going and feeding his guests and hosting and doing everything they did. And the Baal Shem Tov said, "Hey, why didn't you answer the door?" And the innkeeper said, "Oh, that's a reminder. The landlord is waiting for me to make my payment. Um, and he came for the rent." So the Baal Shem Tov said, "Okay, so why don't you go pay him? It's okay, we don't mind waiting." And he said, "Oh, I don't have to go until he does that 3 times." And that was the first one. So he said, "But don't you want to just finish it up?" And he said, "Well, I owe him 300 rubles, and I don't even have 300 rubles in my pocket. So I'm sure Hashem will provide me with the money, and I will pay it up in time." And he was very calm and like seemed like it just didn't bother him. And so the meal continued. And obviously the Baal Shem Tov, since he was a great rabbi, he was speaking a lot of words of Torah, and the people were very interested, and everyone was really into it. And sure enough, before you know it, again, the knock on the door came. And again, the um, the innkeeper just kept on going as if nothing. And the Baal Shem Tov said, "Well, do you have the money yet?" They said no. And he said, "So how are you going to pay it?" They said, "Don't worry, Hashem will provide it." And at last, the third knock on the door came, and the man put on his coat, and the Baal Shem Tov said, "Well, do you have the money now?" And he said, "No, no, but I'm sure Hashem will provide it." And they looked out the window, watching this man go down the road to the landlord without any money in his pocket to pay for the rent. And as he's walking down, they see a wagon coming towards him, and the guy from the wagon gets out, stops, and they speak for a few minutes. And then the man continues, the innkeeper continues on the road to the landlord's mansion. And they all, the Baal Shem Tov and his disciples jumped out of the house, out of the inn, and they ran to the wagon. They said, "What just happened? What just happened?" They said, "Oh, well, I'm a contractor, and we wanted to buy a lot of liquor, and the innkeeper liquor, and the innkeeper, makes the liquor, and he provides us with the liquor. And he said he had one request, that we pay him in advance. So we paid him in advance, and we made a deal with him, and we gave him 300 rubles as a down payment, and we shook on it, and we went on our way." And how the Baal Shem Tov see, and he said, "Oh, and he said he couldn't sit and talk to me too long because he had to go pay his rent." Mm-hmm. And the Baal Shem Tov looked at his students, and he said, "See, the innkeeper's simple faith and trust in Hashem brought him this blessing. Because he trusted completely in God, God rewarded him faithfully." So this is just the beginning how I wanted to start our class. If we could just close our eyes for a moment and try to think where in our life we can think that way or feel that way. And we're going to try to discuss how we can get to that point, how quick we can get to that. So let's start with the Jews in Egypt. And the Jews in Egypt, right, they were very, they were slaves. They were kind of under Paro's rule. I'm about closing the eyes now about in general about our life. Okay. And sorry. And right, they were slaves. Then Moshe comes along and says, remember Hashem, he's gonna take you out of Egypt. And they all listened faithfully, and they did exactly what Moshe said they should do. And they leave Egypt to their freedom, right? They go from slavery to freedom. Ta-da! But where are they going? How are they going to be provided for? With what did they go? They had complete faith in Hashem and in Moshe, his servant. It actually says it says Vayaminu b'Hashem u'b'Moshe avdo. It means they believed in God and Moshe, his servant. And with this faith, they were able to go through the desert. So we know that they left with what food? What's the famous food that they left Egypt with? You do, yeah. What do we eat every year at the Seder? Matzah. You can say it loud so I can hear you.
Of course.
So they had matzah. They had like a 30-day supply or so, 40-day supply of matzah. And the matzah runs out. And what are they going to eat for the rest of the 40 years that they're in the desert? Famous. So what does Hashem send them? Manna from heaven. Bread from heaven. Actually, it says that the blessing they said on the month is not, we say hamotzi lecha min haaretz, that give us bread from the land, from the earth. They said that provides us with bread from hamotzi lecha min hashamayim. Yeah, provides bread from heaven. Okay, so how did they get the man? What was the whole story with the man? What were all the rules and everything with the man? So every day, Hashem would rain down the man with the dew. The man would lay it out there, and every single day they were able to go and collect the man. But the man they collected, they couldn't just go collect for a week. Like, let's say you go to Costco, you go to Ralph's, you go to whichever store you go to, Trader Joe's, and you do your shopping for the week or something. Or sometimes you like stack up and buy your toilet paper for a month or whatever it is. But they could only pick the man for one day. That day's food, that day's eating. And the second thing was they couldn't leave anything over. So they had to, whatever they picked that day, they had to eat it all up at the end of the day. So that when they went to sleep at night, they had to have complete faith in Hashem that the next day the man would fall again. You say it loud so people hear you. Yeah, and it would rot. But yes, there were people who tried to keep it and do a couple tricks, and they got into a lot of trouble. So this idea, think of every day if you would go to sleep without any food or knowing where your food was going to come from in the morning, and you went to bed, and in the morning you had just to rely that it would be there again, and you'd have enough for the day. It's a pretty big test of faith. And doing this for 40 years, ingrained within them this idea that we have to be totally reliant on Hashem, that everything we have, everything we get, everything that is given to us really comes from Hashem. And it says that every penny that we earn, so all our sustenance, is only how much Hashem has decided for us in the beginning of the year. And Rosh Hashanah, right? The high holidays. So someone might try to work harder, which is important to work hard. It's important to work to earn, because you need to have a vehicle, you need to have a vessel, how the money comes to you. You need to have a medium for the money to come. You can't just sit back and say, okay, Hashem provided me the money. You got to do something about it. But Hashem already decided how much you're going to make. And someone will say, oh, what do you mean? If I work, extra hours, if I would do this, if I do that, I'll make extra money. I'll make more, than I'm supposed to. You don't know what's going to happen. Did you have a big doctor bill that year? Did, you, God forbid, something happened and you had to pay a extra insurance, premium to pay out, to pay out, and that you lost that money that you thought you earned extra. So we don't know, but somehow at the end of the year, however much Hashem has decided you're going to have, that's how much it is that you actually have. So yes, we all need to work. We need to make a keli, a vessel, for the money to come. So whatever work that you do, whatever thing you find, meaningful for you to do, or whatever you're talented at, and you earn that, but it's Hashem who is providing that money for you. So we always need to keep this thought in mind. We always need to keep thinking of this. So some people may say, hey, So, right, the more I work, the more money I earn. So if I work 6 days a week or 7 days a week, right? If I work, I don't want to take off on Shabbos. I have very little money now. If I take off Shabbos, I'm going to earn less. I'm not going to have enough money to live. And no, that's why Shabbos is a reminder to us that yes, it's Hashem who is giving us our money and not just the amount of hours that we're working. So logically, yes, if you work more hours, you make more money, but you really don't know what it's all about. So, because really a Jew knows that his money comes from Hashem and the labor is only the channel that receives that money. So by us doing what Hashem wants, we are getting what we need. No matter what, we're going to get how much we need. Whether you work that extra hours, you work on Shabbos, you don't work on Shabbos, it's not going to make that difference to work on Shabbos because Hashem already decided what you are going to have. And that is a certain type of faith and trust, right? To know, hey, I shouldn't be worried about my future. I wouldn't be worried about even not my future, but my present, that I'm not going to, the present life I am now, how I'm going to, pay my bills. So this faith and this trust makes us, and the idea of the man brings within a Jewish person that we needed to turn to Hashem when we need something. So instead of saying, I have this in this issue, and you try to turn to man, you try to say, oh, I'm going to do this better. I'm going to ask this person, like you rely on someone else. Oh, if I'm going to make a good impression on them, so they'll like me, so they'll give me more money. You need to do what's right, what Hashem wants you to do. You need to turn to Hashem, and you will get what you need to get. So you don't have to compromise on your Torah values. By sometimes people feel, oh, if I compromise on my Torah values, but this is how else am I going to earn money? Hashem will understand. Maybe there's some way I could do something. Like there's, I remember reading a story many years ago about a guy who was I want to say like a rocket scientist or some type of worked in some type of field like that. Mm-hmm. And he needed a job. He was looking for a job, and he got it. There was a job available. I'm assuming, I guess it was part of the government or something. And he came into the job, and he was a very religious man. I mean, he was a religious man. He had a beard, and he went for the interview, and they asked him different questions, and he felt uncomfortable. He said, "What if I don't get the job because I have the beard?" Like he felt that they would judge him wrongly. And so over the weekend, he shaved his beard, and he came back after the weekend, I guess, for like a second interview or for something. They were interested in him. And they said, "Oh, what happened to your beard?" And he said, "Well, I didn't think I would get the job." He said something like, "I wanted to make sure I fit in and that you guys would accept me and everything." He said, "Well, because of your beard is why I wanted to accept you, but I knew you had conviction and I knew you had strength of character. And that's why I was, I was ready to give you the job." So you never know, so when you stand up for what is, is right, what's right, what you do, what Hashem wants you to do, then somehow Hashem will make sure that you get it, even though it doesn't seem right in like a logical or natural sense of things. Another person, I just wanted to mention a few stories that had to do with this. There's this woman, she's very famous, Joyce Azaria. I know I mentioned her before in the classes. She's been doing a lot of interviews all over the place. She is the daughter of the founder of BCBG, famous company. And she was the founder of BCBG Generations, like the child clothing line. And now she does tons of, she has lots of businesses. She's a major entrepreneur. And people always said she became religious over time. Her father was very traditional, but she became religious. And all these things that maybe get in the way, let's say, if you're in the fashion industry, to dress modestly is kind of like an oxymoron, right? Or to keep Shabbos or not join all the parties Friday night or do all the things that will make you fit in with all the celebrities and fashion industry. Mm-hmm. And people were a little skeptical sometimes with the companies that she worked with, but she said she always brought in the best sales, even with all that. And now she mentors people, and she does really well for herself. Didn't lose anything out by keeping Shabbos, by keeping, tznius and all the other things that she does as a Jewish or, observant woman. Oh, so I think she met him after she became a boss. Yeah. Okay. So, or there were in generations past, I'd say many years ago, the sages would also have work to earn money. They didn't like get a stipend or get money, different points. They would have like a business or something too. And there were many sages that would, let's say, work just a few hours a day, enough to make enough money to like live for the day, for what they needed for that day to live. And then they would, as soon as they would make that amount of money, they would go back to their books and learn and close the business. It was just because they knew, this was their faith in Hashem. They knew Hashem would provide and they would have what they need. So because the man, the idea that the man is our, like the representative, like kind of reminds us of our faith, of having full faith that Hashem gives us and provides us what we need, because that's how we had to learn it, through waking up every day, not knowing if the man was actually going to fall, and, eat. And then again, they were in the desert, they couldn't grow their own food or anything. So there are people who have accustomed to say the portion in the Torah that talks about the man every day, to like remind them, to help keep their belief that all the sustenance comes from Hashem. Because hey, if we read this portion, how Hashem brought them the man every day, it reminds us that Hashem is giving us our man every single day. And it reminds us that Hashem is intimately involved in our life, and Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence, that Hashem, yes, he is taking care of us, even though sometimes you don't see it. It might seem, life might seem a little bit unsettled, scary. You don't know what's going to be. You don't know how things are going to turn out, but you just keep reminding it. If people say this portion to remind them, yes, Hashem is constantly watching over us. Just like he provided the man every day, he is providing for us every day today too. And what's interesting is what we said before, is that Hashem, whenever he decides how much we're getting at the beginning of the year, that's how much we get, no more, no less. No matter what we do. So we see this also in the story of the month, because it says that everyone got exactly the portion, the amount they needed to eat for that day. So number one is, some people had the man come right by their doorstep, and took them 3 seconds to find it in the morning. Some people had to walk 5 minutes, some people had to walk an hour, and each person had to do a different degree of work, a different degree of effort to get their man. And the second thing is that no matter how much you collected, they say, oh, I see 5 things of man over here, I'm going to grab them all. When you got home, you only had the amount that you actually needed to eat for the day. So it again brings that idea out that yes, each person has to put a different amount of effort to get their sustenance, but at the end of the day, Hashem's going to give you exactly what it is that you need. So there are 2 Hebrew words. One is emunah, which means belief or faith. Okay. And then there's another word called bitachon, which means trust. I would say like another word, like way of saying it would be like surety or confidence. Like, so there's an idea of having confidence in Hashem, or trust in Hashem, that he's providing everything for us and we don't need to worry. So there's having belief, knowing that Hashem is giving us everything, which I think many people have that feeling to a certain extent or another if you're a believing person. But trust, bitachon, is something much deeper. We know that he is providing for us, and it's like so much ingrained within us that we're not worried about it. We act in a way that, as if like that we know he's doing it for us. So in Judaism, there is a basic mitzvah to have faith in Hashem, to have emunah, to have belief in Hashem, faith in Hashem. And most people who believe in Hashem believe that Hashem is providing and doing something. But bitachon, trust or surety, is knowing that he's certain that he is providing. So knowing that Hashem is definitely giving to us, so much so that that it makes you not worried, like the guy in the story that we said in the beginning, that when you need something, when you say, hey, I'm lacking this, why is this not happening? Why am I not, seeing the end of the tunnel, whatever it is, knowing, hey, don't despair. You start to turn to Hashem. Hashem has said, Hashem, I know you're providing it for me. Let's see it. Hashem is for sure going to give it to you. So when you right away turn to Hashem, when you have an issue, that kind of shows your trust in him, that you're believing that he is going to take care of it for you. And when you train your mind to think this way and know that only Hashem is going to bring you to salvation, yes, you may have to go and speak to someone to as a medium, as something to get to that point. But when you know that He is doing it for you, and when your thoughts change, like when your thoughts of being sure that Hashem is taking care of you, that alone can change reality. It brings it down. It brings that blessing that you need. It brings it down. So when you feel calm and not nervous or worried, why is this thing not happening, or why, where is this, or why is that going on? When you totally feel calm and sure that everything's going to be okay, that is trust. When your behavior reflects the feel, like the thoughts. Do you ever? I always, ever think of like trapeze? You ever watch trapeze artists and they have to fully trust each other to be able to do, their whole show, to know that they're going to catch each other and do the right things at the right moments, that everything works out. So that intense trust, or that trust that they show with each other, should think of it that way. Like, you just know that Hashem's going to catch you. You know that He's there, and He's going to be there right at the right moment to catch onto your hands. To, you're not going to go falling down or anything like that. Calmness, yeah, the calm and the surety that He's going to be there. So when we show Hashem how much we trust in Him, He merits that. So if that person merits that, Hashem fills the need. So it's the medium that draws down the good the person is waiting for. That trust brings it down. Anyone have any comments, questions, anything so far? I'm just talking and talking. Okay.
For me, when I make a decision or maybe a compromise, what I'm thinking, and then I feel calm once I come to maybe the opposite of how I felt earlier in whatever situation was. Mm-hmm. It's a calmness, and it's actually freeing.
Yes. So actually, I just heard a story now. When the war first broke out in Israel 2 weeks ago, there's a young, there's a lot of Americans that live there, right? And there was this young American, and she first got so scared, and she's like, no, I can't stay here. And a lot of people did was they just took whatever flights they could get out to any other country, any European country they could. And she was just so scared that she, went with her baby, and I'm assuming her husband, and they flew out to, I think, Greece or somewhere. And as she's on the plane, people were texting her, oh, we need help. Can you do this? Can you do that? And she realized, hey, these people back in Israel need me. They need my help for, whatever it is. I guess she was there, she was usually providing people with assistance or help. And as soon as the plane landed, she got another plane back and went back to Israel. Because she realized, once she realized, yes, at first she was full of anxiety and she was scared and she didn't know what it was going to be. But once she realized that she was needed, once she realized that she can do something and help other people, it kind of put her trust in Hashem. And she realized, hey, if I'm there for a purpose, if I'm there helping people, who Hashem wants of me, I know Hashem's going to take care of me. And so that also, once people are anxious or nervous or worried and they say, oh no, instead of just kind of like go in, you kind of start to think about, oh no, what's going to be with me? How am I going to do this? If you go out to help another person, you stop thinking all those worried thoughts. You stop thinking all those anxious thoughts. So sometimes when we're going through difficult times and we're going through a hard time, we're like, oh, how am I going to get through this? Or everything's going, doesn't seem to be good, or I'm very scared, or whatever it is. As soon as we go and reach out to someone else or bring something positive in the world, even to one person, it makes a huge impact. And it builds our trust and it makes us feel better. Okay. So there's actually, I think I've said this story before in one of our classes. There was this rabbi in Europe, and a holy man, and every day when he was ready to eat, he would say, Hashem, Reb, I forgot his name, whatever, Reb, is ready to eat. Please, I know you'll provide for me my meal. And his attendant knew as soon as he heard those words, he'd come and bring him in his food. And the attendant started thinking, hey, just because he's saying that's God providing for him, but who's really bringing him the food? I'm bringing him the food. What if I didn't bring him the food one day? Is that going to work? He's not going to get his food. I want to teach him a lesson that it's not just that he's saying, God, please bring me my food, but it's also me that's doing it. Because if I wasn't here, he wouldn't be getting that food. So one morning he decides, that's it. Today, when he says those words, when he gives me his little sign, says, Reb, whatever, is ready to eat, Hashem, please provide, my meal. I'm not going to bring him his breakfast. And the rabbi, he's done with whatever he's doing. He says, Hashem, Reb, whatever his name is ready to eat. Please provide me my meal. And this attendant standing there in the other room, I'm not going to do anything. All of a sudden, there's a knock on the door, and this guy comes bursting in, and he says, Rabbi, I want to thank you. You gave me this blessing, and now it came true. And here, because of it, I'm bringing you a breakfast, a whole spread for you, continental breakfast. And the attendant sat there, his mouth drop open, and said, now I see. Even if it's not me, somehow Hashem's going to provide him his meal. But because the way that this rabbi looked at it, so much so as, Hashem is providing me my meal. Yes, the attendant might be the medium where it comes through, but if it's not him, it's going to be somewhere else. Somehow Hashem's going to provide him his meal, and because he fully believed this is how it was. Now there's different levels of trust in Hashem, of bitachon. And remember the story of Joseph, he's thrown into prison because he's accused of messing with his master's wife. And in prison, he's able to interpret the dreams of the servants of the king. And so when they are leaving prison to get judged, he tells, the baker he knows is going to die, and he tells the butler, you're going to live. Please remind Paro that I'm in prison. Please let him know about me. Remember me before Paro. So he was relying on the butler to help free him from prison. Now, what happened? It says that because of this, Yosef was punished, and the butler forgot about him and forgot to mention it to Paro until a few years later. And it says, why was he punished? You're not allowed to rely on natural means to help you in times of need. And it says that because Yosef was such a righteous man, because he was such a tzaddik, he was on a higher level, and he should have only relied on God and not on human at all. So for most people, the first level of trust is a very good level of trust in God, because not even everyone could get to that level of trust in God. And that is that the divine influence, the bracha, the blessing, whatever it is that you need from Hashem, is drawn down in a natural manner. Okay, so yes, if you can ask someone, please help me, I'm going to need your help, you do whatever you can to make the thing work. And you find the means to bring the miracle. And that's, if a regular person would have asked the butler, please remember, me before Paro. But when the divine influence and the blessing comes not through natural ways, when it's total miracle, it's a higher level of trust, a higher level of bitachon. And that is when you totally rely on Hashem's providence. And you don't do anything because only Hashem will help you. And that is only reserved, I would say, for very special people, or people who are very high level of trust. Another person I want to bring out like that, actually, I have these books here, is, I don't know if you've read the book of Rabbi Shalom Rubashkin, because he's a modern day trusting person who taught us a lot about trust. He was in prison, not for don't say falsely imprisoned or whatever it was. And in this book, you read about it, that every single legal avenue was exhausted. And it was at a point where there was no way out. He had a 27 and a half year prison sentence. And he only had served 2 years of it or so, or maybe more than 2 years, a few years of it. And he could have just given up, down in the dumps and nothing. And that was it. But it was just at that moment when every single avenue was exhausted and there was nothing else to naturally rely on for him to get out of prison. That's when his salvation came. That's when he was recused, I think. No, not recused, what's the right word? Not pardoned, but similar to pardoned by President Trump. And it was at a point where there was nothing in a legal sense, in a regular legal avenue, that he could have gotten out. And only at that point, and he totally had to dig into the deepest parts of his, deepest wells of trust in God is when he actually got his salvation. Okay, so okay, what else? Okay, so Yosef should have been on that level, and that's why he should not have asked the butler for help. Anyway, okay, so but we can also compare it to a whole week. We deal with mundane things. We think about our however it is that we need to make a living, right? We work, we do whatever it is. We need to like get the buck, pay our bills, do everything, and that's like a natural state. The 6 days of the week is a natural state that we actually have some type of medium to make our money. But then comes Shabbos, and on Shabbos we don't work and we don't, prepare food. So Shabbos is a day we don't ask Hashem for our sustenance. Like it's not the day to ask Hashem for our sustenance, and it's not the day we deal with our mundane. So that's that day that we are like on a higher level, on a level of this deeper trust in God and this miracle, knowing that Hashem will provide. Even if we're not working today, right? Hashem is giving us everything that we need. Okay. So I also just wanted to end, 1 second, with a little thing. 1 second. Okay. A little, I guess, article I would say, by Zvi Friedman, and it's a little, so it explains the manna again in this idea. So the story of the manna seemingly reveals God's politically correct side. Every Jew, man and woman, senior citizen and small child, large and small, receive the exact same portion of manna, exactly 1 omer, an ancient measure of the heavenly food. One need not consult a nutritionist to realize that different people have different dietary needs based on their age, body mass, gender, metabolism. Is distributing equal food portions God's way of demonstrating the importance of absolute equality amongst all humanity, even at the expense of common sense, or is there a deeper significance to the strict rationing of the model? Judaism is actually a strong proponent of different roles for different people. God did not create everyone equally. Instead, he created many types of people, each group perfectly suited for performing its godly mission on this world. However, there's a powerful common factor which all Jews share, a divine soul. But this soul expresses itself differently in different people. The divine core of every Jew's soul is identical. Thus, those traits which emanate from the very essence of the Jewish soul are exactly alike in every member of the Jewish nation. The manna represented one of these core soul qualities, faith and unconditional trust in God, and therefore was evenly allocated to every Jew, regardless of his or her physical nutritional needs. Is there a deeper significance to the strict rationing of the manna? Our sages explain that besides the obvious benefits of having a free lunch for 40 years, the manna also presented the Jews with a daily portion to hone their faith skills. Putting the leftover of the manna in a casserole into the freezer for another night was not allowed. Every night found the Israelites staring into the bare refrigerator and pantry, and out the window lay a great expanse of barren, foodless desert sand. Their only source of hope was their faith in the almighty kindness, confidence that God would again send sustenance from heaven. For 40 years, the Jews' shopping list consisted of faith in God. Their 401k plan was faith in God. Their insurance was faith in God. For 40 years, the faith characteristic of the soul was exercised and polished every day. The Jewish soul always possessed this faith, this basic element of the divine soul. But the manna experience brought this quality front and center. The faith was then passed on to all future generations, providing us, with the ability to trust in Hashem, no matter how empty the food cupboard or bank account may be. In truth, there are 2 possible channels by which we receive your livelihood according to perspective you take in life. You could decide to become just another element of nature, chasing after your bread and chaos, running the race of survival of the fittest. And the fact is, you may even do well taking this route in the short run. In the long run, however, your soul is being denied its nourishment, and your body too will never feel satisfied. Or you could see your life as an intimate relation with the source of life above, as though all your livelihood was no more than manna from heaven, handed to you personally and lovingly, straight from the hand of your God and partner in all you do. Then your main job is to keep the basket where your manna will fall sparkling clean, ensuring that no one is being hurt or misled by your business, to spend the profits you are granted on spreading kindness in the world. maybe you'll get rich this way. Maybe you won't, but you'll always be satisfied. And that was by Tzvi Friedman. Anyone have any comments? This questions? I do want to also show you one other book. It's called The Queen of Cleveland, and it's about a Rebbetzin Shula Kazin. She grew up during communist times. Her parents were very religious, and so they refused to send their children to the public school because they knew they'd get indoctrinated by the communist regime in Russia. And because they refused to send, they didn't send their kids to, like, they didn't register. And it was a communist country. They didn't get any food coupons or anything. So they couldn't work. The father couldn't work regular jobs. They literally lived off like the black market and lived on nothing for a while. They even lived in like the women's section of a synagogue. Because like in Europe, a lot of the synagogues, the first floor was the men's section, and like up on the second floor was the women's section. And they literally lived there for a few years until their father was taken to prison. And they literally had they totally had to rely on God. And the story, if anyone wants to borrow it, just as her story growing up and like see what it was really like in the communist socialist country of the USSR and what they did and how much they indoctrinated people and how much people starved. But especially because they wouldn't send their kids to Jewish school and they wouldn't fall into the communist ways, they literally had nothing. They didn't have any coupons to have a place to live, to have food to eat, to do anything. So probably, I mean, she was born, I'm guessing, in the late 20s. And I know, I met her. I know her children, her grandchildren, her great-grandchildren. So I guess I know her personally. I mean, she passed away already a few years ago, but very amazing story of trust and faith in God. Yes. Okay, anyway. Thank you guys, I guess, for joining. Anyone else have anything else to say? Wonderful. On the recording.